morning! Yay, it's craft time with Charlie. Now we're kind of getting into the thick of things of this story. Um, it's hard to talk about, so please pardon all my ums because I quickly lose my train of thought as my mind goes back to the emotions without my conscious recognition or permission. Sometimes that abusive, dysfunctional relationship is better than nothing, and that was very true with my foster mom. I'm making her a block today. She did take me in, and that was awesome because my parents, for whatever reason, were pretty much emotionally unavailable, and a lot of my needs were neglected. Like when I was a little girl, I was riding my bike in Texas. It's hot out, and I got really dizzy and started sweating profusely. My mother just put me on the couch and left me alone, didn't tend to me or anything, and she went back to whatever she was doing. And that's indicative of the support I received all my life. There was no parents there when I played volleyball or ran track. They didn't show up when I had my little modeling thing. I don't recall any support at all. I remember getting my GED when I was in my 20s, early 20s, and standing in the vestibule of my little apartment crying for joy because it was one of the happiest moments of my life. I knew I could proceed with my future because I got that little bitty piece of paper. My grades were high enough on the GED that I had earned a scholarship to Ohio University. And I was really excited about that, but once again, I didn't have anyone to share it with. The birth of my youngest son, I was waiting, to eat my celebration dinner with my foster mom. They give you a little steak, and back then it was a little bottle of champagne and stuff like that. But she never showed up. I never heard from my parents. So having to go through cancer alone was no big surprise, but I sure didn't need a support system. I didn't have anybody. The man that I took shelter with at the 3-bedroom house I talked about in the last video, he was gone, of course, all the time. He did let me use his truck so I could get back and forth and around and everything, which is really good because Academy was 13 miles away. I knew if I'd made it on the first day that I would be able to get a ride back and forth, but that just wasn't going to last the whole time I was in Academy. So I was very grateful to be able to use his vehicle. See, he's supplying what I need. He's supplying what I need. And early on, I can see where there was passive aggressiveness and the withholding of affection, the things that create the trauma bonds, but I didn't know any of this at the time. So back to the cancer, I was terrified. I couldn't find anyone to watch my children while I had this surgery. My foster mom wouldn't because her girlfriend's nerves were shot. My foster mom was a lesbian, and the girlfriend, she didn't have any trouble with my kids. Foster mom just didn't want to keep her. So I begged my foster sister, who was about 15, 16 at the time, to watch my children. I said, I promise I will be home Friday. My surgery is on Thursday. I'll be home Friday. And I didn't know what I was talking about because I didn't know I was going to be hooked up to all these machines, but it didn't matter. Though my foster sister agreed to, foster mom said no. I ended up having to leave my children with an acquaintance that I had just met, who actually ended up dumping them on my foster mother. I drove myself to the hospital. I checked in by myself. Yeah, I did everything alone. They put me in a hallway to wait 20, 30 minutes alone. I'm terrified, bouncing off the walls. Even the shot that they gave me hardly calmed me down. But when I woke up, I was missing body parts and I was in a lot of pain. I had made it through the surgery and I was grateful for that. Foster mom brought my kids to see me, but she abruptly left. She said I was being a bitch, and she left, and I didn't have any other visitors until maybe later that night. one of the guys from Academy brought me some flowers they all chipped in to get, and I was very touched by that because nobody ever did that for me before. I never heard from my parents. I never heard from my siblings. Nobody cared whether I lived or died. That was in October. In January, we had to move. We had to move. He knew that we were going to have to move, but I did not. Apparently, that was not his house. It was his mother's house. She had died, and it was in probate. And he was just sponging. Now I know he maxed out all her credit cards. He left her alone when she was dying. He didn't take care of her. None of this stuff, none of it that was supposed to be done. And then here he was capitalizing on her death. But I didn't know that at the time. We did move, and I did graduate Police Academy. This was one of the times I was grateful for my foster mother's support, because my father and my stepmother didn't bother to show up. Of course, no surprise, but she did, and she brought all my children. And it was a very proud day that this mama got to make that salute and get the diploma in front of those 4 kids. What a day. So it was very joyous. I did get a job at the Civic Center, and I worked there for about a year. We decided to move out into the country. We both loved the country, and though Sweet Beaner in New York was my first real love, I really loved Grizzly Adams first, and he was probably the first man of my dreams. I've always had a pull to nature. Nature is the only place I feel safe, and it's the only place I feel like I belong. So we moved way out of town, 30 miles out into the country. They call it God's country. Nothing out there, nothing. I loved it. And he seemed to love it too. He liked to hunt and fish, although I never saw him do those things. I just saw him be an armchair warrior, say he has these interests but never pursue them. Now I know that's a red flag. I got a job in that county. I'm going to call it North County because it's north of the South. It's north of the county that I will be talking about in depth. So I got a job as a deputy sheriff, and that was in June or July. By September, I had proven myself enough to be sent to Corrections Academy. I was very excited about that. I was gone for throughout the week and home on the weekends. The man had quit working. I don't remember why. I don't remember why he quit. Anyway, he was just taking care of the kids. Yeah. Okay, so I got sent to Corrections Academy, and while I was in Academy, we decided it would be best if we found a home that was more winter friendly, because this one had a constant cross breeze, even with the windows closed, and it was just an old farmhouse. We found a place, and while I was in Academy, he packed up all the stuff and set it in the living room. I'm very pleased to be able to say that I graduated Corrections Academy at the top of my class with the highest score ever recorded in the state at that time. Very proud of that. Probably too proud. But yeah, so it was good. And as I was trying to hammer something in to the wall, I had missed and I hit my thumb really hard. And of course, he's standing behind me telling me not to be a pussy. Don't be a pussy. You can't be a pussy if you're going to do these things. And he was very belittling in that respect. He would always, not always, but he would often say things very belittling like that. Like when I was trying to learn to use a drill. You can't do it like a pussy. Or he'd say things, if we went to bed and we were having a little tense moment, he'd say things like, do you want me to have a good night, babe? Do you want me to have sweet dreams, babe? Just crap like that. And now I know why he was doing that, but at the time it was just so hurtful and I didn't understand. So I hit my thumb and I was like not happy with his response, and I turned around and said, you know what? I try harder than most women do. This isn't even my job. And because I confronted him with his behavior, he turned around and walked out the door. Because he knew I had this fear of abandonment, this fear of rejection by this time. He already knew how to play me. It had been 2.5 years, almost 3 years. So he already knew what he was doing. And he left. I didn't see him for about a week. I finally made contact with him. I know now that he went back to his ex-wife, but at the time I didn't, and I thought we were going to work this out. He told me that he needed his time and space, but he would still come over and help me with the children. Fine, that's enough, you know. And so I worked the midnight shift, and he would come babysit the kids while I went to work. It saved me a lot of money. Babysitter for 4 kids is pretty pricey. On December 5th, 1997, I was preparing to go to our sheriff's office Christmas party, and I was really excited about the event. But I got distracted by a letter that came in the mail from my kid's school. And the letter informed me that my daughter had been put in detention, but it didn't tell me why. And so I asked her, why were you in detention? Because you're like the best kid ever. Why would you get put in detention? And she looked down and she was obviously ashamed. She said, I wrote something in my journal that the teacher didn't like. You see, the teacher had him writing daily journals, right? And I'm like, you're 7. What could you possibly write in the journal that the teacher didn't like? And she said, I wrote down that I wanted to have sex with so-and-so, a little boy in our settlement. Like, what? We haven't had that conversation yet. You're 7. I didn't say that to her, but I knew to pursue this. I said, what do you know about sex, hon? And she looked down, and I could tell all the words were stuck in her throat. And since I've been there in those shoes, in that position, with those emotions, I knew to ask her questions. What do you know about having sex? Have you been having sex? And she said, yes. And she still won't look at me, and I could see tears forming in her eyes. And I had to ask, who have you been having sex with? And she said, Daddy. At that moment, anything pleasant, positive, wonderful that I felt for that man drained out of my body and has never fucking come back. What Christmas party? I packed up my daughter and went straight to the sheriff's office in the county that I lived in. I had been living in North County, but the new place we found was in a county I'm going to call Lawless County. So I took her to the Lawless County Sheriff's Office, did the report. They had us go to the ER. They did, just a spot check. They didn't go into the whole female check, but they made sure that she wasn't in any danger. There was no damage at that time. And then while I was in town, I, of course, made arrangements for another babysitter. And I went and picked up my boys. And I did good. I didn't say anything. Picked up my boys and grabbed my clothes because I wasn't going to stay there to get dressed, but I'd forgotten my boots. This is where I screwed up. I grabbed my boots and I turned to him and I said, what the fuck were you thinking when you were on top of my baby girl? That's the last words I ever said to him. And I left. I shouldn't have said anything. He took that opportunity to grab my valuables because this wasn't his first rodeo. He took my valuables, things like rings, jewelry, and stuff. He took pictures from my photo album, me and the male strippers. One from when I was a kid. I wasn't even a kid, I was maybe 20. And I had some hemostats and a roach on a roach clip, hitting it away. We had been in the cruise line, just having fun. Um, Drugs and alcohol is not something I was big into. So, it was just something we did on a Friday night. And it was long before Academy, just part of my childhood. He took that and some other things. And I went to work in North County, and I filed a report there because it started happening in earnest when I lived in North County. And I did everything I was supposed to do. I talked to the detective, he asked a lot of questions about this person. And then he's like, what's he gonna say about you? I go, hell, I don't know. There's no telling. I didn't know what I was in for, right? And I said, the only thing bad I can think of is that, I worked 3 months in a strip club, and that was it. That was about the end of our conversation. I turned in the evidence that was at my house to Lawless County. It was her blanket. We thought there might be semen on that blanket. And for whatever reason, the evidence disappeared. We've never seen it again. Never got any word back on it. And Lawless County chose not to file any charges. North County, however, they had a very good assistant DA, and she, right there, she did a great job investigating. And she sent us to the pediatrician. We got medical evidence. We had all this evidence now. They took my daughter's testimony. I wasn't allowed in there because children will open up better when their parents aren't there. So I don't know what she said or anything. But whatever it was enough that the grand jury returned a secret indictment. I didn't know where he was. Didn't know. Now my foster family, because we like drama in this family, we're gonna go find him. And we did tried to draw him out, but never found out where he was. I tried to use my job to find him because I wanted this indictment served. I wanted him off the streets for what he did to my daughter. Police couldn't find him anywhere, but say foster mom, one of the biggest drug dealers in the county, right? She knows everybody, and she found him. And so I called Lawless County because that's where he was living. He was back with his ex-wife at this time. And I let them know where he was. And I thought I had a good working relationship with these people because we're neighboring counties and we talk to each other on the phone all the time. So it was May. One night I was headed to work and I'm on the state road. The state road has this nice long stretch and then it has an abrupt left turn. So you can see a good long ways. And as I was coming up to this abrupt left turn, I could see a Buick, a red Buick at that curve. And it kind of reminded me of his ex-wife's car. And that car stood there. I mean, it's like 2 miles. I can see it for 2 miles just sitting there. And when I went past, it pulled out and started following me, and I knew that was him. And I hammered down, and I booked it. And I lost him because I know those roads. He didn't. And I got to work. I was like, I think I just got followed. And we just kind of blew it off. And I don't know if it was days later or weeks later, but later, the same month, I was working dispatch one night, corrections dispatch. It was all the same back then. We had received a call from Lawless County, and the lady on the phone informed me that they tried to serve that indictment, but they couldn't find him. And I hung up the phone, And I turned to my partner that I was working with that night and I told him what they said. And he just looked at me. And I said, he's going to come kill me. And my partner said, you know how that goes. And I do know that crime victims often think that their perpetrator is going to come after them. And so he tried to console me and calm me down and everything, and he did. And we went back to work and did our thing. And it was a long night. It was 8 in the morning. I didn't think anything more of it because I had like an hour drive home. Don't think anything on that drive home, so I'm gonna get some sleep. I went home and did my normal thing. I always locked the door behind me. I called my foster mom. We talked on the phone for a while. I went into the bathroom and changed out of my uniform and put everything away. Got my joggers on so I could crash out. It was Memorial Day, and I was sad that I was going to miss the parade because Lawless County has the longest running Memorial Day parade in the nation, and it's always a big deal. My foster mom had my kids, and I wanted to take them, but I was just too tired. So I was going to have to skip the parade. I came out of the bathroom now, not as a cop, but as a woman, going to bed in our skimpy jammies. And before I got even out of the living room, something caught the corner of my eye. And I just instinctively turned to run to the back window. He came out of nowhere and tackled me onto the couch. And he started beating me about the head and upper body. I had been beaten so badly that I had bruises. Even my breasts were green. Anyway, like, what do you want? Why are you doing it? I knew. I already knew, you know. The cops were at my house last night. So, there were so many of them. You're ruining my life. And he kept beating me and beating me. And while this is going on, I'm doing good. The phone was right there. And I tried to dial 911. But I had been working all night and it was a computer, so I'm pretty sure I dialed 377, but I didn't know that, and I just started yelling on the phone his name. What are you doing? What are you know, just so hopefully somebody would hear me on the other end. And he started grabbing me by the back of my hair and pulling me up over the arm of the couch and on my knees, and I thought I was going to get raped. It didn't occur to me that he only likes little girls. So anyway, I thought I was going to get raped, and I couldn't move my head, but I could move my eyes. And when I looked under my arm, I saw his hunting knife, and I just wanted to throw up. That's put the fear of God in me. I was going to get gutted like a deer. And that's what I thought. That was the first thing I thought. And then I looked at the other side. That rat bastard had my own gun on his hip. I had to pawn it for some reason or another. Not my service weapon, but something else. I knew some cash. I pawned it. And he went and got it out. He's going to shoot me with my own damn gun. Rat bastard. Anyway, so I saw that, and two things happened. My training kicked in. But also what happened was something came to mind. You know, I don't know what other people think of when they're fixing to die. I hear their loved ones, their life flashes before them, all my dogs. But I thought of Oprah Winfrey. And this is the day Oprah Winfrey saved my life. She had a segment on her show about personal safety. And she was talking to some man. And she was reiterating what he had said. If you know you're fixing to die, you give it everything you have. And I knew I was fixing to die. That's when my training kicked in, and I grabbed onto that gun, and I was not going to let go. I fought with the rest of my body, and he used the back of his hand, I think right here, the palm of his hand, and he hit me in the head so hard, I went flying up off the couch, and I landed on my feet. and I aimed for the front window. He tackled me again into a chair, and he started hitting me over and over and over again. And here, this whole time, I thought he had snuck into the house while I was in the bathroom. I went to open the front door because it was right there and it was still locked. It told me he had been hiding in there for quite some time. And so I couldn't really get that door open. And I had already kicked the window when I had stood up. The man, he had tackled me in the chair and he's beating me. I got him by the throat because I was fixing to, I'm gonna kill him. And he just stopped. And he looked out the window and he said, well, the cavalry's here. And I'm thinking, hell, that's a great response time because this is Memorial Day parade, 30 miles out in the country. And this all happened in slow motion right here. He looked up and said the cavalry was here. I still had him by the throat. He pulled away. He started reaching for the pistol. It was a 357. No, it was a 38. It was a 357 because they can shoot. Doesn't matter. It's a revolver. And as he's pulling it up, he hesitated just enough to where I dove through that window. Thank God it was already kicked out. And I don't remember jumping off the porch. I don't remember jumping over the ditch. I don't remember crossing the state highway. But I do remember the look on my neighbors' faces, who happened to be the cavalry, as I ran past them into their house and picked up their shotgun and started loading it. Being the bright people they are, safety-minded, they quickly took the shotgun away from me. But as I got my story out, and obviously I'm hysterical at this point, I got my story out, they started reloading it. The neighbor lady sat me in the corner, gave me an Ativan, bless her heart, because I was half out of my mind, I really was, and I sat in that corner with a hiking stick, thinking, they get through them shotguns, I'm gonna kill him with this stick. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna kill him with this stick. I'm gonna kill him. I'm gonna kill him with this stick. That's it. Get past them guns. Just gonna do it. That's how screwed up my thinking was at this time. Well, the husband came in and picked up the phone. The neighbor lady went to the husband. They whispered something, and then she just looked at me. He finished his call. They went back outside, and there was two men there, kept a bead on this guy so he wouldn't come over. And the neighbor lady came over to me and said, he had to call 911. Honey, he's burning down your house. And I'm holding onto that stick, and I was saying, I don't care. I don't care. I don't fucking care. I'm alive, right? I got this stick. I'm gonna hold on to this stick. I'm alive. I'm alive. It's okay. I'm alive. I'm alive. I guess he didn't really think his plan out, because now the house is burning down around him, and he didn't think about his exit too well either. And this is when the gunfire started, and there was so much gunfire. Instead of being a smart criminal and exiting the back of the house and going over the hillside to disappear forever in the government land, this idiot holes up in an outbuilding 6 feet away from the house that's burning, surrounded by kerosene jugs. Unfortunately for me, he did not die or burn, but my house did. It took quite a while for any emergency personnel to show up because it was Memorial Day. But when they got there, they all got there. Lawless County showed up. North County showed up. SWAT teams from both counties showed up. Even the highway patrol showed up, and they didn't even have a leg in the race. The fire department, the electric company came. The poor guy had to put on a bulletproof vest and go cut the electrical wires off. Or cut the, you know what I mean, shut the power off from the line. everybody's there. The news crews were there, and here I am in the corner with a stick in my pajamas, planning on killing him. So the man stayed in this outbuilding for hours and hours and hours. And I don't know what time the incident exactly happened. I want to say 9:30. But we were there till well after lunch. And the sheriff of Lawless County came out. Everybody was there. They tried to talk him out. He did the fake suicide shot, which all cops know, just to expect that. They're going to pretend to kill themselves, and then what? I don't know. Shoot everybody that walks in the door. I don't know, but nobody fell for it because we all knew. And time went on. Maybe the sheriff got hungry. Maybe he was just impatient. I don't know. But he decided this was enough, and he took out that can of tear gas marked 1973, threw it on in there, wouldn't you know, and blessed enough it deployed, and the sheriff went in there and got that man out himself. And that's about the time I came flying out of there. I was still gonna kill him. Cause see, I'm mad now. Not mad like angry. Fucking mad. Because I was so scared. I was so scared. But as I went running past the barricade, my sergeant, he was a big old boy, just picked me up around the waist and kind of threw me off to the side and said, "No, by the way, you're taking a couple nights off," and that just pissed on my rainbow because, that's what I do. I avoid dealing with stuff, and work was a good escape, but he wouldn't let me. So my foster mom, I was able to make contact with her, and she must have been very worried because for the first time ever in her life, she came to my house out in the country to be there, just to be there. And they gave me a ride to her house. I'm in the back seat, and I just wanted to go home. I didn't have a home anymore. And I had to tell my children. And then I had to go to the hospital. And there was stuff you have to do after this stuff, and that was it. Let's call it a day. And this was the first time ever I was very thankful that my foster mother was a drug addict. She kept me wasted on Stadol for 2 days, and I was able to just stay calm and just avoid dealing with it. I had to avoid dealing with it, or I would have lost my mind. I tried to tell my parents about it, and my daddy wouldn't listen, and my stepmom said something like, "Oh, the things you get into, girl," and I just went off on her, and my foster mom took the phone and explained. But I never heard anything from my parents after that. I never heard anything from my siblings. And after the initial event, the foster mom did what foster mom does. She capitalizes on this to get free stuff, and she was kind enough to let my kids stay there. But if I wanted to stay, of course I had to pay rent. Like, are you kidding me? I just lost everything in the fire. So the man ended up being charged with aggravated arson, aggravated burglary, aggravated kidnapping, and intimidation of a witness, which went along with that secret indictment of strong-armed rape. So he's looking at 43 years. I was just trying to find my car keys in that rubble. I remember my first night back at work. I'm in street clothes because all my stuff burned. I have no gear, and blue jeans and a blue shirt. And I was just sitting there, and you know how when your computer just kind of, that white line and it goes blank when it shuts down like it's not supposed to? That happened in my head. And I knew what that was. And I was like, oh, hell no, 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 no. And I was able to shove everything down, and the light came back on. I rebooted. But I rebooted a whole different person. I ended up staying by a creek because I had nowhere to go, and nobody would help me. I was so lost and alone, and I was scared. North County, some agency helped me get a hotel room, and that was good, and they helped me get stuff. But that day of that fire, not only did I lose my home, but I lost valued possessions like my son's ultrasound picture, one of my kids' first daddy picture, people picture, things that you can't replace. I lost everything that I had to rebuild, and because I had already lost everything in storage because I couldn't get child support. I lost everything I got, in a flood just 2 years before. So everything I had been new, and I don't have any more money, and I have nothing. I have nothing, and I lost that, and my kids lost everything. They lost their home, they lost their stuff, but worst of all, they lost their mom that day. As abusive and dysfunctional as my foster family was, she was there. My parents, my siblings, the people that could have been, for whatever reason, chose not to be. And in these situations, I might be a train wreck, but I need support, I need help, I need love. And once again, I just couldn't get these things. I don't know why. Is there something wrong with me? What's wrong with me? In the next video, I'll tell you what everybody said. Because that's not the end of the story. It's actually just the beginning. And the rest is so unbelievable. I thank you again for listening to me. I appreciate your time, and I appreciate your support and empathy. If you are struggling with a domestic violence situation and you know it, there are people that will help you. I'm here to help you. I know the comments, they're not disabled. You can put something in the comments. I will see it. It doesn't mean it'll make it to, the public, because I want to review the comments. I don't have a great fan club out there. But if you need help, you can reach out to me wherever you are, and I will do my best to put you in touch with people that will help you. Thank you again. Have a great day.
If happy little bluebirds fly